Good afternoon. The meeting of the Committee on Legislative Franchises hereby called to order.
Mr. Chair,
Kong Pimentel,
I move to dispense with the roll call.
there's a motion. Duly seconded to dispense with the calling of the roll. Motion is approved.
Mr. Chair,
Kong Pimentel,
I move to dispense with the reading of the previous minutes and subsequently for the approval of the said minutes.
Second.
just moved and duly seconded without any objections. Meeting is motion is approved. May I direct the COMSEC to acknowledge the committee members present and likewise recognize the resource persons we have with us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. We want to recognize the presence of our honorable members. Firstly, the Chairman, Honorable Franz Alvarez, Honorable Abraham Bambol Tolentino, Honorable Tony Pet Albano, Honorable Pingping Tejada, Honorable Faustino Michael Carlos D., Honorable Kuya Antonio C. Alvarado, Honorable Dale Along Malapitan, Honorable Eric Martinez, Honorable Alfred Vargas, Honorable Divina Grace Yu, Honorable Luis John Ferrer, Honorable Marvin Yulcer Nieto, Honorable Rolando Valeriano, Honorable Sol Aragones, Honorable Eduardo Eddie Gulias, Honorable Eliandro Jesus Madrona, Honorable Ann Hofer, Honorable Gil Cabarangay Acosta Jr., Honorable Precious Hipolito Castelo, Honorable Christian Onabia, Honorable Jericho Jonas Nograles, Honorable Edward Vera Perez Maceda, Honorable Micaela Villago, Honorable Gabriel Bordado Jr., Honorable Estela Luz Kimbo, Honorable Edsel Lagman, Honorable Elpidio Barzaga, Honorable Juni Cua, Honorable Prospero Pichay, Honorable Evelina Escudero, Honorable Aurelio Don Gonzalez, Honorable Johnny Pimentel, Honorable Rosemary Baby Arenas, Honorable Henry Uwominal, Honorable Vilma Santos Recto, Honorable Josephine Ramirez Sato, Honorable Jesus Crispin Remulla, Honorable Xavier Jesus Romualdo, Honorable Roger Mercado, Honorable Joseph Stephen Caraps Paduano, Honorable, and for our resource persons, we want to recognize also Deputy Speaker Hernandez. For our resource persons, we have NTC Commissioner Gamaliel Cordova, Engineer Alvin Blanco, and Deputy Commissioner Cabarias. We want also to recognize Congressman David Suarez. And Strike Revilla and Congressman Woman Tambunting. Sorry. Okay. And Congressman Zarate.
Thank you, COMSEC. The committee meets today to come up and agree with the ground rules we'll be using during the deliberation of the 11 House bills filed for the franchise renewal application of the ABS-CBN Corporation, and the measures filed on the franchise renewal of ABS-CBN Convergence, Sky Cable, and Amcara Broadcasting Corporation. We know that emotions run high in the issue of their renewal application. We are doing this meeting to be fair and objective in our deliberations as we treat the ABS-CBN as a very significant player in the broadcast industry. We know that the reach of the influence of any broadcast network, much more of an entity as big as the ABS-CBN. Hence, the need to hear the stand of all stakeholders in their application. We also want to remind the submission of position papers from different stakeholders until April 15, 2020. As of the moment, there are 7 organizations, 1 regulatory agency, 1 local government unit, and 2 individuals who submitted their position papers, either supporting or against the renewal of ABS-CBN on various issues. We also want to restate our letter to the NTC that while deliberation of the franchise renewal bills is pending at the Congress, that ABS-CBN be allowed to continue their operations. We are also setting the ground rules today to guide our members in the future hearings of the renewal of ABS-CBN. We may expect some members to become emotional on the matter at hand, and setting up ground rules will ensure orderly proceedings in our hearings. Let's now proceed to the drafting of the ground rules.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Congressman Rufus.
My point of order is that the rules and practice before a committee starts to hear bills, there has to be the sponsorship speech of the authors, because unless the authors are given the chance to give the sponsorship speech, there is no pending matter in this committee. The referral of the committee is not the operative fact that will make the committee start deliberations. It will be, as we have always seen in all committee hearings, it will be the sponsorship speech, and that will put the matter already in our hearing, including the ground rules for the 11 bills. And so therefore, I therefore move that we be heard the authors so that we can properly continue with the hearing of this committee.
Move
by
to
the
suspend,
sponsorship
Mr.
speech.
Chairman. Move to suspend the hearing for a
Hearing
moment.
suspended.
We cannot start.
Hearing resumed.
Mr. Chair.
Congressman Pimentel.
Mr. Chair.
Congressman Barsaga.
Well, In connection with the motion of our dear colleague, firstly, he raises the issue of point of order. Under our rules, when it comes to point of order, as provided for under Rule 62, a point of order is a privileged question that raises a violation of the rules in relation to the matter under discussion in the floor. In this particular case, there is no discussion in the floor. And we have been consistently observing that the chairman usually has the right to determine what would be the order of his proceedings. Well, insofar as Congressman Rufus is concerned, he stated that there should be sponsorship speech. But insofar as sponsorship speech, there are 11 bills. So we have also to determine the ground rules. Who shall first deliver the sponsorship speech? What would be the length of the sponsorship speech? Will the sponsors who are not permitted at present, at this time, be permitted that other persons take their place? And therefore, regardless of any issue, basically, there must be a ground rule even before we deliver the sponsorship speech. So in this particular case, I object to that motion.
Mr. Chairman, in reply, Mr. Chairman, we're putting the cart before the horse. In no instance in this Congress, and I have been here for 10 years, will a subject matter, a bill, which has been referred to the committee, has been heard either by having rules, by position papers, before there is a sponsorship speech. That is the mechanism, that is the operative fact, which really gives the committee the jurisdiction to proceed further.
Mr. Chairman, what's the point of order, Mr. Chairman? What's the point of order? We want to...
My point of order is that we have to have sponsorship
Order,
speech.
order.
Yes.
There is a pending motion and an objection, so we now divide the House.
Mr. Chair, before we proceed with the division of the House, just a point of inquiry. Are the sponsors this afternoon allowed to deliver their sponsorship speech?
No, not yet. Not
Yeah,
yet.
after, for example, after we lay down the rules.
Sa next hearing pa po yung sponsorship natin. Precisely the point kaya hindi po natin inibita lahat ng sponsors ngayon, ng authors, kasi yung sponsorship natin, part sa i-discuss sa ground rules, nasa next hearing yon. Next hearing natin.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chairman,
There's a ruling na dinivide na po yung House. So,
Mr. Chair,
Comsec.
there's a pending motion to divide the House, Mr. Chair.
Comsec.
Mr. Chair. The point of order is not really a point of order because Congressman Barzaga already pointed out that is done in the plenary, and the chairman can actually just rule on this. And the chairman, considering the advice of our distinguished gentleman, Congressman Barzaga, you can already rule that the point of order is not in order, Mr. Chair. Then, therefore, no need to divide the House in speak further of this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There's already a ruling on the floor by the chair. So those who are in favor of proceeding with the ground rules and not yet with the sponsorship speech, show of hands na lang siguro. So now, those who are in favor of having the sponsorship now, raise your hand. Okay na. So 42 and 2. So now we move on with the laying of the ground rules.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Kong Lagman.
before we proceed on the ground rules, I know for a fact that for ages already, the committee has its own rules of procedure, which has been governing the conduct of hearings and other activities of the committee. May we know if it is the impression that the present rules of procedure of the committee on legislative franchises would that be sufficient in considering the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN?
Kong Lagman.
Brother. That's why we have to make the ground rules. Is the present rules of procedure of the committee not sufficient to address the hearings on the 11 bills proposing for the 25-year extension of the franchise of ABS-CBN?
The additional ground rules is necessary for a more organized and orderly conduct of the franchise renewal deliberation. We all know kasi na itong sa ABS, marami po talagang issues at medyo emotional po yung mga iba nating kasama. Kaya committee found it prudent na magdagdag tayo ng additional rules para po may maganda ang sistema and order ng ating hearing pagdating po sa susunod.
Well, we submit to the best discretion of the chair and the membership of the committee. I am not a member of the committee, but has there been any instance in the proceedings for the renewal of a franchise that separate or additional ground rules were considered and created by this committee?
Marami na po mga naging instances, Congressman Lagman, but it is also within the powers of the chair to add ground rules if we see na kulang pa po talaga at makakatulong ito sa proceedings natin.
For example, Mr. Chair, what are these additional ground rules?
Doon po tayo papunta ngayon, Kong Lagman, kaya po kung if you will allow
I'm
us,
just asking
isa-isahin na po
the
natin.
thinking of the chair. Ano ba ito na pwedeng idagdag dun sa presenting ground rules already?
If you will allow us, Kong Lagman, ipapalabas natin ngayon, ipa-flash natin yung ating general rules sa screen para makita po ng ating mga lahat ng members. And then, isa-isahin po natin yung ating mga additional para po makita naman at ating mapag-usapan dito yung mga additional natin na ground rules.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chair.
Kong Maceda.
Yes, so what you're saying is if ever we will adopt additional rules, but those that are existing already that we've followed since time immemorial are still operative and in effect. So kung sakali, yung dating rules, gagamitin pa rin, kung sakali magdadagdag lang para mas lalong maayos yung hearing sa darating na panahon. Salamat.
Mr. Chair,
Kong Pimentel.
I'd like to appeal to my colleagues. We have several items on the agenda. We are still on the opening remarks of the chairman. Why don't we give the courtesy to let the chairman finish his opening remarks? Then we can discuss on what direction we are going to proceed in this hearing. Patapusin muna natin si chairman. Hindi pa nga natatapos si chairman, ginugulo na natin. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to hear what you're going to say, especially with the ground rules. So, may I appeal to the to my colleagues, na patapusin na muna natin. Let us allow the chairman to finish his opening remarks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kong Pimentel. The chair would like to instruct now to the committee to flash on the screen the general rules. The COMSEC. Okay, isa-isahin mo.
For the general rules, we have number 1, be punctual and come prepared for the meeting. Number 2, Respect each member's thinking and opinion, listen attentively, and value everyone's contributions. Number 3, stay on point. Be direct and keep comments brief so as not to exceed the time allotment. Number 4, when a topic has been discussed fully, proceed to the other issues at hand and avoid redundancy. Number 5, when coming late, kindly ask the Secretariat if point in mind has been discussed or brought up. Do not bring a topic back up when the matter is already fully discussed. Number 6, call the attention of the chair if there is a similar point or follow-up to one's query. And number 7 is strictly observe the time allotment for each member. For the specific rules, the chair has some suggestions, and I think other members have suggestions also.
Mr. Chair, may be recognized.
Kong Albano.
Mr. Chair, for proper decorum and to make sure that we have a smooth and proper hearing, I would like to suggest the following ground rules. On decorum, and this is just a reminder, and this is actually the rules of the plenary and this august body, a member who has the floor shall speak only on the question under debate, avoid personal attacks in all cases, and refrain from indecorous words or acts. Second, if any member or guest utters expletive, indecent words and unparliamentary remarks or curses and acts in disruptive manner, the chair may suspend, cut the time allotted for them to speak. Third, the chair may motu proprio, or as the committee may direct, declare statements, remarks, or words unparliamentary and order that these be stricken off the record, Mr. Chair. And on the presence of media, because I can see that there are a lot here, and so that this will benefit the public on why we have not allowed a lot of cameras here. Mr. Chair, I move that media coverage may be allowed but should be done in an organized manner. Second, the number of media outfit inside the conference room may be limited if the available space cannot accommodate all those who wish to go in. In such case, the Secretariat may accredit media personnel dedicate a corner space for a cameraman and provide rules to the following during the meeting. And lastly, Mr. Chair, there shall be a limit of 2 personnel per outfit or media station network inside the conference room. This is also, Mr. Chair, for the benefit of our next proceedings so that we can have a smooth hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Kong Abante.
should there be a penalty on the violation of the ground rules?
Wala na.
Mr. Chair, that's up to the chairperson to see whether the rules permit any penalties for those unparliamentary and of course, curses and words.
For additional ground rules, the chair would like to suggest that the sponsorship by authors be limited to 3 minutes so that may time po lahat kasi marami pong authors. And then, as we are doing in all our hearings, all concerned regulatory agencies must be invited and be given sufficient time to present their position papers. Hard copy of position papers and agency recommendations must be reproduced and distributed during the deliberation. Kong Pimentel?
Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman. There was a mention earlier of rule on media coverage. My question is, because this hearing will surely extend beyond May, June, and who knows when. After May 4, will ABS-CBN still be allowed to cover here? Yeah, just wondering, as per
Kung
rule.
I think i-reserve natin, tanong natin mamaya pag sa NTC na. Patapusin po muna natin yung ground rules.
That's a hypothetical question.
That pertains to the rule stated earlier on media coverage, Mr. Chairman. So it's not...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we have seen today, this is the first hearing, but we could see that everybody would like to speak. So, to have an orderly hearing in the future, Mr. Chair, I am also proposing for some ground rules. And some of this we already know, but we should strictly adhere to this. Vice Chair Tony Pet has already mentioned about the time limit. But may I propose also, Mr. Chair, this is with regards to the sequence and time limit on interpellation by members. A, members should signify their intention to participate in advance with the Secretariat for proper recognition. Alam na po talaga natin yun eh. Kasi ang mangyayari nito, this will take a lot of time. If it's not even your turn, then you would like to speak and the chair would have to recognize you. Eh hindi matatapos tayo kahit na 2 araw. So I think it is incumbent upon us members that if we want to interpolate, we should let our name be registered to the COMSEC so that there will be a chronological order of interpolators. Those who oppose the renewal will be heard first, to be followed by those who endorse the franchise renewal. Para hindi tayo palipat-lipat, so that they will have an orderly interpolations. Unahin na muna natin yung mga in favor, then pagkatapos ng lahat na in favor, kung 20 yun, di paunahin na natin yung mga in favor. Then after that, yung mga anti naman. Oppose rather. Those who will oppose the renewal. Mauna na muna yung anti, then after that, Then all members present who wish to interpolate would be given 3 minutes each for the purpose. Alam po natin na usually in hearings, 5 minutes. But because of these very contentious issues, we will limit, or rather, my proposal is that let us limit it to 3 minutes. No member shall speak more than once on the same question unless she has introduced the question or a motion is pending on the matter in which the member would be permitted to speak in reply, but not until every member who chooses to speak on the pending question or matter has spoken. If the 3-minute time allotted for the interpellation of everyone who registered to be called is insufficient, the chair may schedule follow-up hearing until every member in the list is heard. So this is on the interpellation, but on voting, a member shall inhibit herself from voting on account of personal or pecuniary interest therein. Mr. Chair, that is my proposal for the succeeding hearings so that it will not be chaotic and it will be orderly for the benefit of everyone.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Kong Aragones, Kong Aragones to be followed by Kong Romualdo, then Kong Barsaga and Kong Zarate.
Mr. Chair, bilang karagdagang paalala lamang po para sa magiging gabay sa ating schedule na hearing, alam ko naman pong alam na ng lahat ito, pero alam natin pagdating ng araw na yun ay mataas ang emosyon ng lahat. Amen? Thank you. Magiging mataas ang emosyon ng lahat.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Bishop. At hindi natin masisisi ang karamihan. Ang iba ay mayroong personal na karanasan o damdamin. Ang iba naman ay may mga gustong ipahayag at ito ay bahagi ng ating kalayaan na ipahayag ang gustong ipahayag, pero bilang paalaala na maging kalmado pa rin po tayo sa oras na yon. At siguradong may mga resource speakers tayo, may mga bisita na dadating. Ang ating pakiusap din lang, Mr. Chair, sa ating mga kasamahan ay gaano man kataas minsan ang ating emosyon, ay panatilihin pa rin natin ang respeto sa ating mga magiging bisita, because at the end of the day, ang bisita ay bisita at dapat nire-respeto. Maraming salamat po.
Kong Romualdo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would like to propose additional ground rules. First, on the matter of position papers of stakeholders and their presence at our hearings. First, number 1, position papers from stakeholders and other concerned entities or persons are required to be submitted for the proper consideration by the committee on or before April 15, 2020. Second, only stakeholders who submitted their position paper within the time period may be invited to the hearing. If requested to present their position at the hearing, stakeholders should do so under oath. And third, for a more orderly and organized proceedings, strictly no walk-in guests will be allowed to participate in the deliberations of our bills. And second, Mr. Chair, on the matter of the presentation of the summary of issues regarding the franchise renewal. First, Number one, based on the submitted position papers from stakeholders, the committee secretariat shall summarize the issues through a PowerPoint presentation to the body. Second, a hard copy of such presentation shall be distributed to all of our members. And third, finally, the applicant shall be allowed to confirm, explain, or rebut the issues presented from the stakeholders. Those are our proposals, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Kong Barzaga.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if there is no other member of the House who wants to make any proposal regarding the ground rules, I most respectfully move that the proposed rules as stated by the Chairman, Congressman Alvarez, by the Vice Chairman, Tony Pet Albano, by the Deputy Speaker, Johnny Pimentel, and also Deputy Majority Leader Romualdo be approved.
Mr. Chair?
In toto.
I second the motion.
Mr. Chair?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Before we
Chair,
act on the
before-
motion of Congressman Barzaga, the Chair would like to recognize first Congressman Zarate and Congressman Maceda.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you,
also-
Mr. Chair. Short clarification. Deputy Speaker Pimentel mentioned a 3-minute rule during the interpellation. Does this include the answers? So, strictly questions. Second, we have a practice in committee hearings that during interpellation, the minority will ask the question first, then followed by the majority, then the independent. Is this rule still being applied in this hearing, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Maceda.
Because it was mentioned earlier na dapat mauna na yung mga nag-o-oppose, no? At mahuli na yung pabor doon sa renewal. But that, for example, I'm an author of one of the bills, but I'm from the minority, no? So hindi siguro I will be deprived of my chance to ask the question first, no? To interpolate because of that rule as enunciated by the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Chair. Will the Chair clarify that?
Yes, mauna pa rin po yung minority.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Congressman
Chair.
Maceda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yung clarification ko lang yung sa sinabi ni Deputy Speaker Pimentel na palitan muna yung pro tsaka yung anti. I think okay naman yun kasi ginagawa natin yung sa mga nakarang hearing. What I'm merely want...
Mr. Chair, point of clarification
Yes, sir.
lang. Ang sabi ko, mauna yung mga anti muna.
Anti, okay. That's
And
it,
then
pro.
susunod yung mga in favor.
In favor. Ang clarification ko lang, Mr. Chair, kay Deputy Speaker, because I presume there are a lot of congressmen who at this point have not yet decided whether they want to approve or not the franchise because they want to hear all issues being threshed out and hear from the agencies. So yung hindi naman talaga classified pa na anti o pro, susunod yon, bibigyan sila ng chance din magsalita.
Yes, those have not yet decided. So, doon na muna sila sa huli. Yung pinag-uusapan natin, ang maunan dyan, Mr. Chair, yung mga
Yes.
anti muna.
Ayan,
So that
ayan.
para hindi tayo magulo. Kasi kung nga mangyayari niyan, anti, tapos everybody will butt in. So, the committee, Mr. Chair, will hear muna lahat ng mga anti. Then after that, kung 20 sila, di 20 yung papakinggan natin. Then ang susunod naman,
Yung pro.
yung mga in favor.
Pero sa huli, Mr. Chair, maririnig din yung mga undecided. Siyempre, because gusto lang namin marinig lahat ng issues bago kami makapag-decide. Thank you.
Congressman Arroyo.
Chair,
Mr. Chair?
paano po ako? Hindi ko alam kung ante pa ako ayoko lang po ihuli niyo ako.
Pa mabibigyan ng chance. Basta papalista lang.
Siguro po mali naman po yung may anti, may pro. We haven't made up our mindset, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Congressman,
the procedure always in hearings, including budget hearings, the first to come, they are listed if they want to participate.
Mr. Chair?
So they are listed, and then in the listing, my minority, my independent, my majority. So as they come, Mr. Chairman, that should be the proper procedure because we cannot now designate who are anti or who are in favor because many are not. So we follow the procedure of listing as they come. So they list, so we have to amend the rules. As they come, lista sa committee secretary. If you are with the majority, you're on the left side, majority, then minority independent. And because the minority starts first, the first minority member to appear and to be able to list will be the one called and then in seriatim. So that has been what should be done, because we cannot just put anti or in favor, because many have not yet made their decision. It should be in the point of arrival and request to be listed in the committee. That is the procedure we have been doing ever since, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Congressman
As a
Barsaga.
point, Mr. Chair, as a point, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, as a point, it has always been a practice that, and I want the chair to resolve this. There will be guest congressmen from the not part of the committee or legislative franchise, and therefore the question of this representation is the members of this committee, whether anti, undecided or not, should be the first ones to be given the chance, and later on guest congressmen after, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Object, Mr. Chairman, on that.
No.
We object that only the members
Being
first will be
suspended.
allowed.
Mr. Chairman, suspended.
Because yung sino na una, yun ang listing eh. First come, first serve.
First come, first serve. Kung sino
First come, first serve. That is it.
mauuna. Ang huli ay mahuhuli.
Okay, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Hearing resumed.
Mr. Chair, I withdraw my motion.
Wait, Mr. Chair, first and foremost, there has already been a pending motion by Kong PD Barsaga. I think we should first take action on that before we entertain other manifestations.
Well, yes.
There's already a motion.
So,
Mr. Chairman.
I restate my motion. I propose for the approval of the rules as stated by Congressman Alvarez, Congressman Albano, Deputy Speaker Pimentel, Congressman Romualdo, and considering all the clarificatory questioning has been sufficiently discussed, then I reiterate my motion to approve the proposed rules.
I object, Mr. Chair. I
Mr.
object,
Chairman,
Mr.
I
Chair.
move for amendment.
I object, Mr. Chair.
Kong Abante.
I have an
I
amendment.
think we still would like to clarify the other ground rules. No, I think we ought to go back to the standard ground rules of the minority and the majority and the independent asking questions. That's the reason why I objected to the motion of Congressman Barsaga, with due respect, until such time,
Mr. Chairman,
until such time that the other ground rules being questioned has been clarified.
Mr. Chairman,
Congressman Rufus.
there is a pending motion. So I now intervene to file a motion to amend the motion of the Honorable Barsaga. And my motion to amend, which takes precedence over the main motion, is that it should be amended that the participation should be on the first come, first served basis. The first to come will be the one that will be listed, with the condition that the minority will always be the first, and then it goes alternating.
Point of
So
order,
move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair. Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Agree.
We have
Kong
not
Abante.
yet decided on the first motion. Then there is a second motion of amendment.
No.
Should we not, first of all, decide on the first
Amendment
motion?
to the motion. Mr. Chairman, the next step is to ask the movant whether he is accepting the motion. If he accepts it,
In response to the answer to the query of Congressman
Mr. Chair, my objection comes first.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
well, in
Chair,
response, wala pa.
you resume because I will ask you to accept.
Hearing resumed.
Mr. Chair,
Kong Pimentel.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair,
Kong Pimentel is
I've been
recognized.
recognized by
Mr.
the
Chair.
chair. The parliamentary status is that there was a motion moved by Kong PD Barsaga, and there is a motion to amend by Kong Rufus Rodriguez. Let us first ask the proponent if he's willing to accept the amendment.
Well, in order that we could have an orderly proceedings, based on our rules, when it comes to amendment, the approval should be made by the proponent. I was not the one who proposes the rules to be amended, and therefore the query should be addressed to our chairman or to the deputy speaker, considering that they were the ones who made the proposed rules. Therefore, any amendment, any alteration should be the subject of their approval and not by the movement of the motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Kong Rufus.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair.
the movant is the one that should make the acceptance or not, because it's the movant. And the movant, there is a motion to amend. And so we ask our movant if whether he would be accepting my proposed amendment on a first come, first served basis. We will know now. From the movant himself, because you are the movant, you cannot throw that renva to another to the...
Well, I do not accept that if you would be giving me the authority.
Mr. Chair,
Kong Maminal.
In order to put the discussions in order, there is a pending motion by the Honorable Rodriguez to amend the motion of the Honorable Barsaga. And since his motion, his proposal to amend is a motion, it needs to be seconded before it has to be treated by the committee. So with that, Mr. Chair, I second the motion of the Honorable Ropos Rodriguez, amending the proposal of the Honorable Deputy Speaker Johnny Pimentel, and considering that his motion to amend is duly seconded, then it is now for the chair to roll on the matter.
Mr. Chair, I have no objection to the proposal, but let me first make it clear that I did not move for the approval of the ground rules. It was Congressman P.D. Barsaga. But as far as my proposal is concerned,
Okay.
I have no objection.
In order to abbreviate the proceedings, I accept the amendment so that we can continue the deliberation on the bill.
Motion
Mr. Chair.
Motion accepted.
Mr.
Motion
Chair.
approved.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Kong Fernandez.
No, this
Kong
is just
Hernandez.
a suggestion to the body that I think we should do away with the word opposing, anti, because precisely we're conducting this hearing. That's why I second the motion of Minority Leader Abante that in the Rufus first come first served basis, because we have to be, this hearing is conducted and it has to be in a manner that is very objective and impartial. So if we start talking about opposing, anti, then meron ng parang may mindset eh. I don't think may mindset na lahat dito. So that's my suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Noted, Congressman.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Now we now move on to the NTC. The chair that correctness, Congressman Mansato.
Mr. Chairman, we commend our Speaker, Alan Peter Cayetano, and the Honorable Chair in taking the initiative to address the legal issue on the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN and its subsidiaries and or affiliates, namely ABS-CBN Convergence Incorporated, Sky Cable Corporation, and Ankara Broadcasting Corporation. Mr. Chairman, it is an honored and established practice that during the period that a bill on the renewal of franchise is pending and is being deliberated upon by the House of Representatives, which has the original and exclusive jurisdiction in the grant of franchises, the TV radio station is allowed to continue its operations unhampered on grounds of equity, and taking into consideration the interest of the viewing and listening public, and of course, the interest of the employees. This jurisprudence has been established by the Supreme Court in a number of cases, like the case of Reyes versus Lim, GR number 135421, dated August 11, 2003, and Enrile versus Sandigan Bayan, GR number 213847, dated July 12, 2016. Mr. Chairman, in view of this, I therefore move that the said letter of our chairman as concurred by the Honorable Speaker be adopted by this committee as the official position of this committee and ultimately the position of the House of Representatives. And I further resolve to allow the ABS-CBN Corporation and its affiliate corporations, ABS-CBN Convergence, Sky Cable Corporation, and Amcara Broadcasting Corporation to continue its operations unhampered beyond May 4, 2020, and or until the final resolution by the House of Representatives of the bill for the renewal of its franchise. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second the motion.
Mr. Speaker.
Second the motion.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman. Sino ba? Kongdong Gonzales. There's a motion, properly seconded, without any objections.
Chairman, I have a motion to amend. Motion to amend.
May objection ba?
To amend. There's a motion to amend, which takes precedence over the motion. Because I would like to state my motion, Mr. Chairman.
What's your amendment, Congressman?
The amendment is that the reason why we can enjoin, the Secretary of Justice says we cannot enjoin. The reason why we can direct and enjoin the NTC is because Congress has been given that authority, exclusive authority, to issue franchises, to alter, modify, or repeal. The reason why we can enjoin them is because we are now delegating this power given by the Constitution to us. And when we delegate it, they are directed to issue it, it will be legal, it is a proper delegation of power. And a proper delegation of power can only be successful and valid if there are standards. I read the letter of our dear Speaker, and we laud him for that. That is clearly the policy of the Speaker that we allow ABS-CBN to continue. But there has to be the standards. Number one, I would like to amend number one, that there is to be a time period. You cannot delegate and say in the letter that until such time that Congress may approve the same. Because under the principle of delegation, there has to be standards. The first one, it should be time-bound. We have to state there up to June 22 or my resolution up to May 2021. Second, it will also state, because here it says in the letter that it should be in accordance with what they deem the policies and the rules that they deem applicable. No, they are canalized within the bounds of Republic Act 7966. That is the franchise. There will be a proper delegation if they have to follow the law of 7966, which is the franchise 25 years ago. And third, in this third standard of proper delegation of power is that number 3, the commissioner cannot further delegate it to another official of the NTC under the principle of non delegata potest, non delegata potestas, non delegare. So therefore, a power delegated cannot be further be delegated. So with those amendments, if the sponsor will accept, we have a resolution to adopt the Speaker's letter, but then we have to put the standards. Otherwise, it will be questioned by those who are against this particular motion. So we move that first, we decide, and I am for 1 year, because if we take 2 years, we better forget about it. There is also a sense of urgency to decide whether to extend or not. And number 2, that they cannot be granted absolute, according to the letter, that policies and terms that they deem best for this. No, you are going to follow what is Republic Act 766. The law itself, you have to follow that. Under the delegation of power, number 3, you cannot further delegate it to another. These are the standards set by the Supreme Court in so many cases where there is delegation of power. And we are now delegating the power. That is why we can enjoin them, we can direct them, because just like rate fixing, Congress has given delegation to the CAAP, to the other agencies to make rate fixing or the process of investigation. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Congressman Lagman.
legislative powers can only be delegated by law enacted by Congress with specific standards. In the absence of a law or a statute delegating the congressional powers, we cannot make that delegation. A mere letter of instruction is not a sufficient delegation of legislative powers. There has to be an act of Congress.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Congressman Arroyo.
Mr. Chairman, since there are conflicting views, anyway, the motion is just for us to sign that resolution. I suggest we just sign it. It is a position of the chair, of the speaker. Let's just sign it. And then anyway, some brilliant lawyer will probably take this to court, and then let the courts decide whatever will happen to us. As long as us, since we are saying that we are impartial, then let's just sign it and let the courts decide if they will be given an extension or not. But at least us, we have proven we are truly impartial. And then come May, if you will hear this again, then we decide to listen to all the views, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. There's a pending motion on the floor. Kong Nene Sato.
Mr. Chairman, I regret to not agree to the amendments to my motion because I stand patly and strongly on the jurisprudence which I have cited, and so I would like to repeat that I move that the motion be approved.
Second.
The motion, without any objections, the motion is approved.
Chairman,
Kong Sato.
is the National Telecommunications Commission present?
Commissioner Cordova.
Yes, Your Honors, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cordova, I would just want to be apprised of the action or the prospective action of the NTC on the motion that we have just passed.
Yes.
As to the official stand of the committee and ultimately that of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Congresswoman Sato, and all the members of the Committee on Franchises of the House of Representatives. First of all, we would like to thank the committee for inviting us here to this hearing today. Mr. Chairman, last February 12, 2020, we were foreseeing already that there are so many issues that will come up on this item. So the first thing that we did was we wrote a letter to the Secretary of Justice. And we will be submitting a copy of this letter to this committee. Basically, Your Honors, we asked 2 questions addressed to the Secretary of Justice, to the Department of Justice, being the lawyer of the executive branch of government. The 2 questions that we raised were the following. The exact expiration date of, we asked the exact expiration date of Republic Act 7966, which is the franchise of ABS-CBN, and number 2, whether or not ABS-CBN may continue to operate until the end of the current 18th Congress while its renewal is pending in Congress. So as to the first question, Your Honor, as to the expiration of Republic Act 7966, before that, on February 26, we received the reply of the Secretary of Justice. Insofar as the first question is concerned, the reply is that the franchise is valid until May 4, 2020, Your Honors. Because it took some time before it was published in the newspaper of general circulation, And it stated there that the expiration will be 25 years from the date of effectivity, and the date of effectivity is 15 days from the date of publication. So it fell on May 4, Your Honors. As to the second question, this is the answer of the conclusion of the Secretary of Justice. Based on the foregoing discussion, there is sufficient equitable basis to allow broadcast entities to continue operating while the bills for the renewal of their respective franchise remain pending with Congress. However, a more stable legal environment could be created if Congress, by a concurrent resolution, would authorize the NTC to issue a provisional authority to these broadcasting companies under such terms and conditions as it may deem necessary until Congress's final disposition of their franchise renewal bills. In an interview, the Secretary of Justice said that the letter, or in this case, the resolution of the House would be enough, but it would give the executive, particularly the NTC, more legal armor if the Senate would also do the same. So we also want to let you know that there's already been Senate Resolution number 40, which is almost the same sense and line of the one that you have mentioned, Madam. May I assure this committee that barring a gross violation of its franchise of the NTC rules and regulations, the NTC will follow the latest advice of the DOJ and let ABS-CBN continue operations based on equity, Your Honors. We are very comforted by the fact that both chambers of Congress are aligned with the DOJ's and NTC's thinking on the issue. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Congressman Rufus.
So it should be made clear that there is equity that is involved. Equity is a branch of law that is really will give substantial justice. Now, aside from that, you should mention that there is also the sense of the Senate, and now, by approving in the House itself of the franchise, by approving and adopting the letter of our dear Speaker, then therefore, that is the basis for you to continue to allow ABS to operate after May 4. Can that be done, Honorable Commissioner? Not only on equity, but
yes,
because of the two senses of the House and the Senate.
Opo, ito po. As I have mentioned earlier, as I have read from the letter of the Secretary of Justice, a more stable legal environment could be created if Congress, by a concurrent resolution, but in this case, dalawa po, separate, but it's okay, would authorize the NTC to issue a provisional authority to these broadcasting companies under such terms and conditions as it may deem necessary until Congress's final disposition of their franchise renewal bills.
So we thank, Mr. Chairman, the Commissioner of the NTC for following the rules of equity and the senses of the two houses of Congress, the Senate and the House, that you should continue to allow ABS-CBN to continue operations after May 4. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Congressman Pimentel.
just a point of clarification from Commissioner Cordova. Would you issue an official provisional authority to ABS-CBN for them to operate? Or basta hayaan na lang sila without any provisional authority, hayaan lang sila mag-operate while their franchise is being heard?
Balik lang po ako, sir, sa letter ulit ng Secretary of Justice. Sabi po niya, yun pong to issue a provisional authority to these broadcasting companies. Yes.
So that means you will issue a official provisional authority.
Most likely, Your Honor, we will follow the latest opinion of the Secretary of Justice. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Kong Sato.
may we request the National Telecommunications Commission to forward to this committee and the House of Representatives the provisional authority that they will be granting to the ABS-CBN and possible guidelines as to the continued operations?
Actually, ma'am, we will be in the process of putting that together, but actually it would be premature to do that right now because there is an existing provisional authority for right now, and there's an existing franchise. The life of the franchise is concurrent with the life of the provisional authority.
I recognize that, but since we will be on recess, I said if and when you issue that provisional authority that you should formally furnish this commission, this committee, and the House of Representatives.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Chair, we will do that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Very
Mr.
much.
Chair.
Kong Lagman.
Mr. Chairman, I would really welcome if the NTC would issue a provisional authority pending the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN. But that issuance is standing on unstable and untenable grounds. Let me just ask Commissioner Cordova if he's aware of Section 16 of Republic Act 7925. Most probably you are aware. And for the record, I would like to quote the provision. It says here, no person shall commence or conduct the business of being a public telecommunications entity without first obtaining a franchise. So an applicant which does not have a valid and existing franchise or an expired franchise cannot be granted a provisional authority by the NTC. Would you agree to that?
Mr. Chairman, Honorable Commissioner, Congressman Lagman, right now po kasi there is a pending case before the Supreme Court, particularly questioning this matter. So it would be sub judice for the National Telecommunications Commission to give its opinion on that matter, considering that the matter is already pending before the Supreme Court.
Of course, Section 16 of Republic Act 7925 is the state of the law presently. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Moreover, in the case of Associated Communications and Wireless Services, United Broadcasting Networks versus NTC, I think you are aware of that also, Commissioner Cordova. The Supreme Court held, and I quote, as long as the law remains unchanged, the requirement of a franchise to operate a television station must be upheld, unquote. Is that correct restatement or quotation of the Supreme Court decision?
Your Honor, the basis for my answer earlier is the opinion of the Secretary of Justice. Yes. And as I have mentioned already, there is a pending case in the Supreme Court, and precisely that that legal issue is the one that is being raised. So, being an officer of the court, I would like to wait for the decision of the Supreme Court on this matter. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Let's just continue. But the state of
one last question.
jurisprudence is this case of Associated Communications versus NTC. Is that correct? This has not been reversed by the Supreme Court. No.
I'm not familiar, Your Honor, if there has been a case that has reversed that item, Your Honor.
And any statement with respect to the provision of a law or jurisprudence is not sub judice. Now, let me go to the point of the Secretary of Justice that because of practice and the doctrine of equity, then the ABS-CBN Corporation should be allowed to continue despite the expiration of its franchise. But we all know that the doctrine of equity does not apply when positive law and jurisprudence are clear. It is only when there is doubt as to the law or the jurisprudence that equity will come in. Because if the law is clear and the jurisprudence is unequivocal, if you go against the law or jurisprudence, that is the one which is unequitable. Would you agree to that?
Your Honors, we respectfully take note of the observations of Honorable Congressman Lagman, and that we will also consider that in our decision on the matter. Thank you very much.
Chairman.
So,
Mr.
that's already the last
Chairman.
question, and I think the NTC has already answered all
Mr.
queries.
Chairman.
Congressman Tolentino.
As Senior Vice Chair of this committee,
I move for the adjournment.
Hearing adjourned.
Adjournment.